The sky glowed vividly that morning. Yet for Elliot Grayson, one of the town's youngest tycoons, the radiance seemed oddly empty. He rested in his glossy dark vehicle outside the walls of his vast manor, his image gazing back from the window. To others, he was invincible, a figure of influence, riches and prestige, yet in his heart, a nagging uncertainty gripped him. He had been with Sophia, a lady of striking elegance and elite socialties, for almost a year. She was the sort of partner everyone assumed he'd choose, perfect, charming, envied at every gala. Still, deep within, Elliot questioned if she cherished him, or merely the wealth that enveloped him. So in a daring and nearly impulsive move, he crafted a trial that would alter his life forever. He told Sophia he'd been hurt in a vehicle crash and could no longer stride. He'd use a wheelchair, conceal himself in frailty, and observe her response closely. Would she stay by him in the shadows? Or would her devotion fade without the glow of his fortune and allure? It was a harsh scheme, but one he felt compelled to try. If you value compassion, fidelity, and fresh starts, please take a second to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel Kindness Tales Stories. Your support helps us share tales that uplift hearts worldwide. The first few days of the test were agonizing. Elliot, clad Aina-fitted navy suit, wheeled into the stately rooms of his mansion with Sophia Niabi. At first, she performed her part well. She caressed his hair, vowed he was still the man she treasured, and even posed theatrically for her friends' sympathy online. But when the spotlight dimmed and the sympathy faded, flaws began to surface. Her laughter grew biting, her tolerance waned, and she started dodging him under the guise of occasions and duties. Elliot could censor her affection slipping, replaced by annoyance and barely hidden disdain. In the backdrop of this harsh scene stood another person, overlooked by most, but unmissable to Elliot. Her name was Clara, a reserved housekeeper who'd worked at the manor for just months. She wore a neat violet uniform with poise and held herself with a dignity that outshone her modest role. While Sophia sighed at the sight of Elliot struggling to grasp his water glass, it was Clara who softly placed it in his hands. When Sophia excused herself from guiding his wheelchair, it was Clara who steered him through the lawns, her steps firm and her quiet soothing. Elliot began to view her in a way he'd never seen anyone before. She didn't gaze at him with pity or awe for his riches. She saw him as human, hurting, fragile, yet still worthy of honor. In those moments, Elliot felt something awaken within him, a feeling absent for years. Days became weeks, and Sophia's facade fell entirely. She ridiculed him openly, telling friends he was a shadow of the man he once was. One night, as they gathered for a grand party on the manor's balcony, she laughed loudly, pointing at him as if he were a bitter jest, while her guests joined with uneasy giggles. Elliot sat quietly, his heart heavy, his face stinging with shame. But Clara, she stood behind his wheelchair, her face unreadable, her grip steady on the handles. When the laughter echoed like venom, she leaned slightly closer, her silent presence guarding him in a way words never could. For the first time, Elliot realized who truly saw him, who truly cared, and who never needed him to prove anything. That night, long after the party ended and the sparkling guests vanished, Elliot stayed awake in his room. He removed the neck brace, set it on the nightstand, and gazed at his image again. He had his answer about Sophia, but a larger question lingered. What would he do about Clara? The next morning, Sophia arrived with her usual air of arrogance, her designer shoe-stamping on the stone floors. She hardly glanced at Elliot before declaring she had plans with friends. Elliot, his heart heavy yet oddly liberated, shared the truth. He rose from the wheelchair, his body strong and steady, and revealed the harsh trick he'd played. Sophia's face contorted in shock and rage, her polished mask shattering as she realized the game was done. Without pause, she stormed out, muttering insults under her breath, her shallow affection exposed as nothing. But Clara, she was different. She gasped softly when Elliot stood, her hands clutching her apron. For a long moment she said nothing, simply staring at the man who'd pretended to be broken, yet who'd also been broken inside in ways she understood deeply. Elliot expected anger, betrayal, perhaps even scorn. Yet when Clara finally spoke, her voice was calm and kind. She said she'd always sensed something was off. She'd noticed the strength in his arms, the steadiness in his legs when he thought no one watched. But she didn't care about the lie. What mattered was the loneliness she saw in his eyes, the pain behind the riches, and the humanity no wealth could conceal. For the first time in years, Elliot felt tears prick his eyes. He admitted that his fear of being unloved for his true self had driven him to this drastic act. And Clara, in her gentle way, showed him that love could be simple, selfless, and true. In the weeks that followed, the manor felt renewed. The party stopped. The shallow laughter faded, and in its place came the sound of birds in the garden, of footsteps on the stone floors that carried purpose instead of pride. Elliot spent his days not with socialites, but in the calm company of Clara. She shared tales of her youth, her struggles, and her dreams. Dreams she never thought someone like him would value. But he listened, and more importantly, he cared. Their bond grew insolence and small acts. The way she made his morning tea, the way he helped her carry heavy trays despite his wealth, the way they strolled together through Thoreau's gardens at twilight. It was not a love born from riches, power, or facades. It was born from kindness, respect, and the quiet wonder of being seen. Months later, Elliot stood before his reflection again, but this time the man gazing back was no longer empty. He was alive, his eyes filled with meaning. And when he turned from the mirror, Clara was there, her smile gentle yet radiant. They didn't need grand words or bold gestures. They had something far greater: trust, honesty, and a love no fortune could ever buy. If this story warmed your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Tales Stories. Every click helps us spread more tales of hope, kindness, and true love.